Hey guys, Jeff here from Films at Home, back again with another video. Off the top, I just want to thank everybody for watching the last one. We have almost 600 views in just 3 days, which is incredible for a channel that's as young as mine, only been around for a few weeks now. So thanks to all the subscribers, thanks to everyone who watched, thanks for everyone who shared it. So today's video, we're going to go over my entire 4K collection. So I started collecting 4K pretty much right when they came out. And I have the 4K TV, I have an Xbox One S that can play 4K movies, and I've got a Dolby Atmos set up for my home theater. And so I could immediately make use of the new format, and so I just jumped right into it, started collecting these, got a bunch to review from studios starting out. And so this whole row here is pretty much all 4Ks. And so I'm going to run you through each of these one by one. And if I've seen it and if I've seen the picture quality, I'll give you a few words about it and let you know how it is. And I'll let you know if it's worth the upgrade too. It's a big question that a lot of people ask when they're talking about collecting 4Ks. Is it worth the upgrade over a Blu-ray? And so I'll kind of cover that for each of these titles. If I think it's worth an upgrade or if you get the standard Blu-ray. So hopefully you enjoy. Let's dive into this shelf right here. Alright, so first up we've got Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. This is the new Jack Reacher film, Tom Cruise. It's the second one in the series. Honestly, haven't checked this out yet in 4K. The movie's just whatever, and I wouldn't say that it's probably worth an upgrade in 4K. Some of the effects will look nice, and the HDR upgrade is always nice, but if you can get a standard Blu-ray for $5 or you gotta pay $20 for this, I'd probably shoot for the standard on this one. Alright, next up we've got The Accountant. I did watch this one. I watched the 4K disc. It's a little grainy, which you see sometimes with the upscales, as you notice a lot more of the grain in the film. But I didn't mind it. I thought the 4K looked really nice. I haven't compared it to the Blu-ray, but I'd say it's probably worth the upgrade. And the movie's pretty good. Ben Affleck plays kind of this like autistic, financial mastermind who, works for some not so great people and, has this kind of secret life. And, it's pretty cool. This kind of flew under the radar considering Ben Affleck's in it, but, I recommend checking this out. Alright, then here we got Bad Santa 2. Honestly, the first Bad Santa is the only one you should watch. And I can't say that anybody should buy this, never mind in 4K. So I'd skip it. If you can find the Blu-ray for cheap on Black Friday and you want to check it out, go for it. But it's not worth the upgrade. Next up here is Billy Lynn's Halftime Walk. This is a pretty crazy movie. It has a 60 frames per second refresh rate, which is something you've never really seen in movies before unless you've seen like some YouTube videos that do 60 FPS. A lot of GoPro videos will, and so it gives you that hyper realistic feel. Some people will hate it. Honestly though, in 4K this is about as good as I've seen any movie look. And this certain set here actually comes with the 3D Blu-ray too. So if you have a 3D TV, you got a 4K TV, it's an all-in-one package. If you can find this for 15-20 bucks, I'd say it's worth a pickup. It's not a great movie, but visually it's amazing. So here's another one that's actually a 3D and 4K combo pack. This is Passengers, Chris Pratt, Jennifer Lawrence. It's actually an above average sci-fi movie. I really enjoyed it, and it's one of the best looking 4K discs I've ever seen. So I highly recommend you pick this up in 4K. It is absolutely stunning. The scenes in space on the spaceship, I mean, it's incredible to look at. So if you get a chance to see this in 4K, I highly recommend it. Next up, we got Patriots Day. This is the Boston Marathon bombing movie. This one hit pretty close to home since, this is right on my home turf. I really enjoyed the movie. It was very true to the events outside of everything Mark Wahlberg did. So if you take him out of it, it's actually a very factual movie. It sticks true to the story. I'm not sure it's worth the upgrade to 4K. I didn't see a noticeable difference. A lot of the film's very dark, and so it's really hard to make out any real upgrade in HDR or resolution. So I'd stick to the standard blue for this one if you can find it. So here's the first animated one I'm going to show you guys here. It's called Sing. It's by the same team, Illumination Entertainment, that's behind the Despicable Me and Minions movies. It's a pretty fun movie. If you got kids or whatever, they'll enjoy it. It's not bad. Honestly, the animation looks incredible in 4K based on the HDR, but the resolution is not going to be an upgrade for anything animated. So if you've got kids and you just want to pop this on, just buy a Blu-ray and they'll be fine with that. Alright, next up we got Birth of a Nation, a pretty controversial film based on just the director's kind of history and some, criminal past that he might have had, assault charges, I think. So it was originally supposed to be like a really Oscar-worthy movie and it was getting a lot of buzz, and then, you know, some stuff came out and it wasn't so great. If you're a history fan, you'll like this. It's pretty interesting. The 4K is not bad. It comes with kind of a cool slipcover here where it pops open, kind of like the Hateful Eight or the Revenant if you have those. Probably not worth a 4K pickup. It's just okay resolution-wise and HDR-wise, but I'd say it's worth a watch. You'll either love it or hate it, I'll say that. All right, then we've got Allied here. It's the Brad Pitt movie, kind of the World War II spy movie with Marion Cotillard. Pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. It's not like quite Inglourious Basterds or Saving Private Ryan or anything like that. But it's a fun spy movie. Brad Pitt's always good. And the HDR was actually pretty solid on this. There was a pretty noticeable upgrade. Again, it's a pretty dark movie though, so resolution doesn't really stand out. But the scenes that do take use of the HDR and the upgraded 4K resolution, you know, I'd recommend getting the 4K if you can find it. This is actually the first 4K disc I ever got. This is Journey to Space. It was released by Shout Factory. It's just like a 45-minute documentary about Mars and about space, and it's stunning in 4K. Obviously, it's like an IMAX documentary that's been converted into the 4K disc. Comes with a 3D version as well. I think you can find this for like $10 if it's even still in print. So if you're just looking for a demo disc, this is a pretty good option. Next up, we've got Arrival. This was one of my favorite movies of last year. I absolutely loved it. I thought the concept was amazing. And when I checked out the 4K disc, I mean, it's impeccable. If you don't have this in 4K, this is the way you need to see this movie. It adds so much clarity. The colors are so much better. It's just such a cool experience, and to see it in 4K is definitely the way to go. So it might be hard to see these ones, but I'm going to do them all together. It's the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Harry Potter films. So it's Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and Part 1 and Part 2 of the Deathly Hallows. The other 4 films are supposed to be coming out later this year in 4K once they do the conversion. If you don't have the Harry Potter set, this is, you know, the way to go. Like, buy the entire 4K set when it's available. There's an upgrade in resolution. There's definitely an upgrade in HDR. And it's just really cool to be able to watch these films again in 4K. So I recommend grabbing them, but I'm not sure it's worth a double dip if you already have the Blu-ray set. Next up here, we got Hacksaw Ridge. This is probably my favorite movie of last year. I think it should have won Best Picture. Obviously, Moonlight has the story and you know, the background, and La La Land was amazing. But Hacksaw Ridge was such a good movie. I bought this 4K disc, and I think I watched it 3 times in the same weekend. The movie's incredible. The 4K is incredible. The soundtrack is incredible. It's just an amazing movie, and if you get a chance to experience it in 4K, definitely take that chance. Definitely pick this one up. Got Jason Bourne here. This is the latest movie in the Bourne series with Matt Damon. I do believe that the rest of the movies are also available in 4K, but this is the only one I have. It's a pretty good disc, pretty good 4K disc. The movie's like, okay, it's better than the last few Bournes, but it's not quite, you know, as good as the first couple. So if you see it on 4K for cheap, grab it. If you see the Blu-ray and just want to check it out, it's probably worth it. Another series here, Inferno. This is the Dan Brown series with the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. This is the 3rd one that just came out. This movie's just alright. I wouldn't recommend a 4K. Probably just pick it up on Blu-ray. And I believe the other 2 are on 4K. I might be mistaken, but I think they were released to 4K as well. I'd say just stick to Blu-rays if you can find them for this set. There isn't a real picture upgrade here. There isn't a real upgrade in terms of HDR, and the movies are, you know, the first one's okay and they progressively get worse. So I would just stick with regular standard Blu-ray for these guys. If you're looking for a true demo disc for your 4K system, there's no other place to look but Planet Earth 2. I mean, the minute I popped this in, then I truly understood what 4K was all about. This disc is incredible. The whole set is incredible. And Planet Earth as a series is an incredible series. Very well done. The best narrator maybe in any documentary ever. But the 4K disc is just impeccable. It is probably the most perfect presentation from a visual standpoint that I've ever seen on home media. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. They've set the bar, and I'm not sure anybody will reach it. Alright, and then I got Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them here. I really liked this. I thought it was a nice companion to the Harry Potter movies. Kind of sets the magical world in a different, you know, era, which is pretty cool. And the 4K disc is really solid. Great color, great resolution. Definitely worth the upgrade. If you're trying to decide between Blu-ray and 4K, I'd shoot for the 4K on this one. Next up here, we get the John Wick movies, the original and John Wick Chapter 2. The original John Wick is maybe one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. I mean, I can watch it over and over and over again, never get bored. And the sequel I thought was not as good, but right up there. I just love the choreography of the fights, the action scenes, and the 4K is such an upgrade for both of these in terms of audio. The colors in the club scene in John Wick 1, where he's chasing down the guy, he's in the pool, I can't remember, the son of the Russian mobster there, when he's chasing him through the club, and you have all those flashing lights, and the music's pumping. In 4K, it is so incredible. It's easily, one of my favorite demo scenes to throw on if I'm going to show off the system. So definitely grab these guys in 4K if you can find them. And I'd say that the original John Wick, it's worth a double dip. If you got the Blu-ray, I'd say go ahead and buy the 4K too. So another Mark Wahlberg film here, Deepwater Horizon, actually done by the same guy who did Patriots Day, Peter Berg. This is definitely one you want to check out in 4K. It's a little dark to start, so you won't notice the big upgrade, but when the explosions start going off and the fire starts pumping through the oil rig there, I mean, the HDR is incredible. It's some of the best coloring I've seen on any 4K disc, and the audio is absolutely incredible as well if you have a home theater. So definitely check this out in 4K if you can find it. Next up, I got Huntsman, The Winter's War. As you can see, haven't even taken the sticker off of this from the review team that sent it to me. I popped this one in. I tried watching it. It's just really bad, and so I don't recommend Blu-ray, 4K, whatever. Just skip this one. Another one here that is just not so great, it's Warcraft. The movie's kind of a mess. I didn't really play the games, so I don't know much about it, but as somebody who didn't play the games, I couldn't get into it. The HDR is really nice, and the 4K resolution is just okay because there's a lot of CGI, so it gets very soft. I'd probably go with the standard blue on this, or maybe check out the 3D if it's worth it. This was actually one of the first 4K releases that went mainstream. It's the Jennifer Lawrence movie Joy from Fox. As you can see, no slipcover. They weren't doing them when 4K first came out. This is a movie you definitely don't need to buy on 4K. It's a drama. If you watch it on Blu-ray, that's going to be just as good. You don't notice anything here. There aren't enough effects or colors to really, make for an upgrade. So skip it. Grab the Blu-ray if you can for cheap. Another movie here that I couldn't really get into, but a lot of people do like, is Underworld. I'm not sure it's worth the upgrade to 4K. Again, it's a very dark movie, and so when there are dark movies like this, and a lot of your colors are deep blues and blacks and grays, the HDR doesn't pop as much. There are some deeper blacks, but you don't get the real full effect. So I'd probably just stick with your Blu-ray if you have it. No real point in upgrading to this. I'll tell you what, I'm on a roll with bad movies. Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, just bad. The 4K is kind of fun because there's a lot of explosions and actions, but it's not worth the $20. This movie's not worth $5. If you can find a cheap 4K, I mean, grab it, but honestly, I wouldn't even pick up the Blu-ray until you see some Black Friday prices on it. Finally broke the cold streak here and picked up a good one. La La Land, the 4K version of this is incredible. The colors are excellent. The soundtrack is so much better with the Dolby Atmos, and the resolution uptick is really, really nice. I definitely recommend getting a chance to watch this. I saw this in theaters, and I saw it again at home in 4K, and it's hard to tell the difference in the presentation. It's that good, so definitely pick this up in 4K if you can find it. Here are a couple titles from Lionsgate. They've been kind of leading the charge on 4K conversions of older movies. So I've got Cabin in the Woods and 3:10 to Yuma. Honestly, neither of these really needed a 4K. Neither of them are really worth the upgrade. They're okay. Cabin in the Woods looks nice at the end when the monsters fly out of the elevators. But other than that, probably stick with your Blu-rays for these. I don't see the real need for an upgrade on either of these movies. Well guys, I'm going to admit to this, I do have 50 Shades Darker in 4K. Sometimes when you're engaged or you got a girlfriend, you buy stuff like this to make them happy. It is what it is. It's a crappy movie. It's not a good 4K disc, but she wanted to have it, and this is the unrated edition, whatever that means, as if they could put more stuff into a movie like this. But just get the Blu-ray if you have to. If your girlfriend's telling you you got to buy it, stay cheap and buy the Blu-ray. Don't buy the 4K like me. Another couple 4K upgrades here from Lionsgate. We got the first Expendables and the Expendables 2. Expendables 3 is also available in 4K, but I don't own it. Honestly, the HDR upgrade on these is pretty cool because just of all the action scenes, you get a lot of explosions and fire and all kinds of fun action that looks great with the updated color scheme. But I'm not sure it's worth a double dip. I can't really, you can't tell the difference at times. For a couple of scenes here and there, I wouldn't say that it's worth the upgrade. Just stick with your Blu-ray. If you really want the 4K experience, these are good ones, but not really worth a double dip in my opinion. One of my favorite 4K discs right here, Kong Skull Island. I loved the movie, thought it was a lot of fun. Great summer blockbuster, and the 4K is incredible. Every single scene in this movie looks amazing, sounds amazing. The HDR is great, the resolution is great. Definitely a movie you want to find in 4K and pick up. So here's a couple from Sony that got 4K upgrades. It's The Fifth Element and Leon the Professional. Both really good movies, and both also were available as 4K mastered Blu-rays. So these aren't just up conversions, these are actually 4K sources that are now making their way to 4K disc. And so I can't recommend them enough. This is when you want to upgrade, is when a studio takes the time to scan the movie at 4K and put some special features on it, add the HDR effects, and then put it on a disc, rather than Lionsgate, who tends to just take a movie, up convert it, call it 4K, and sell it for twice as much. These are the ones you really want to invest in. You want to do your research and make sure that they've been scanned in 4K. If you're going to upgrade, that's a big piece of the upgrade for me, is to make sure that the upgraded resolution is actually worth the purchase. So 5-second review here, Smurfs The Lost Village in 4K. Makes no sense for this to be in 4K. Don't buy it. You know how it says $40 in savings in the front? Save yourself $20 and don't even pick it up. It's really not worth it. It's a train wreck. I've got Life here. It's the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds that just recently came out. Came out at kind of a weird time, didn't get a lot of press, but I actually liked it. I mean, it's basically like Alien. It's essentially the same concept as the Alien movies, but the 4K is pretty good. Anything sci-fi looks like really good in 4K. If you can find this for cheap on Black Friday, maybe when they're trying to clear them out, I'd pick this up for 10-15 bucks on 4K. I do think it's worth the upgrade, if you can swing it. Another set here from Fox. We got Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the Apes is also coming to 4K pretty soon, so you'll be able to have the full new trilogy in 4K. These are a decent upgrade. It looks like they've done some work on them. It's hard to look it up online and see if these have been scanned at 4K or not, but there's a noticeable uptick. If you don't already own these, then it's probably worth waiting for the third one to come out and buying the trilogy as a 4K box set, unless you can find these two for really cheap and pick the third one up on release day. I recommend getting the movies. They're great movies, but not necessarily 4K unless you haven't already picked them up. The Fate of the Furious here. This is one of the better 4K discs from this year. Universal did a great job with this movie. It's wild, it's out of control, the action, the effects look great in 4K, the HDR is incredible. My only gripe with this is that the extended cut, the director's cut, is only available on digital. So really a slap in the face to people like me who collect movies and want physical copies. I'd like to watch the director's cut on my TV on a 4K disc, but I can't because Universal put it on a digital copy and it's only in standard HD. So kind of sucks, but still worth a pickup, definitely. And it looks like the other movies in the series are going to start making their way to 4K as well. So keep an eye out for maybe a complete set of what they have so far, since they just keep going. It won't be a complete set because there'll be 15 more of these, but you could buy all 8 of them at once. It's not a bad deal. Another set here from Lionsgate that came out on the same day. We got Dread and we got Ex Machina. I loved both of these movies. I thought they're incredible. The 4K upgrade on Ex Machina is pretty good. The 4K upgrade on Dread is much better, just because of the color schemes and things like that in Dread that are more present than in Ex Machina. If you don't own either of these yet, then this is definitely the way to go. They're definitely good 4K discs, but I'm not sure I can, say that it's worth an upgrade from a standard Blu-ray. If you already own the Blu-ray, those are pretty good. I will say that the Dread copy here has the 3D disc as well. So it's another 4K 3D 2D combo pack, so not a bad pickup. You can probably get these for around $10, and if you can swing it, then they're worth a chance. You know, check them out on your 4K TV. They're very, very cool movies. Next up here we got Logan. Obviously this movie got rave reviews. It's excellent. Probably Hugh Jackman's last time as the Wolverine character, but you know, I'm so glad he came out one more time. This movie's great. Comes with the noir version, all black and white. This is a 4-disc set. It's pretty thick for just, you know, your standard 4K. Fox did a really, really nice job releasing this. The 4K looks great. The HDR looks great. Everything is amazing. You need this 4K disc. It's a standard that you should have in your collection. It's going to be a staple of your collection. Going to be a great demo disc. Make sure you pick this one up in 4K. So this is a fairly recent release here, Ghost in the Shell. Very cool slipcover, which I'm glad to see they're spending some time on slipcovers and packaging in 4K. A lot of them are pretty bland, or they're just repackages of the Blu-ray. The movie, not so great. I didn't love it, but the visuals, amazing. So if you want to just take like a ride and check out your 4K TV and see what it's really capable of, this is a good one to pop in, but you're probably not going to enjoy the ride. It'll just be nice to look at. It'd be like taking a really crappy boat to a really nice island. The ride's going to suck, but the whole way there, you're going to love the view, if that makes sense. So if you can find it for cheap, grab it in 4K. It's a pretty nice demo disc, but the movie's not all there. So if you can find it cheap, I would say grab it. Another pretty recent one here, Lego Batman movie. I mentioned before that animation doesn't really do a whole lot for me in 4K, but this was surprisingly good. I saw the Blu-ray version of this and the 4K, and there's a noticeable upgrade. The colors are much better. There's definitely a finer resolution that you can see really in the Lego pieces. I don't know if it's because they're Legos or what, but you can really make it out, and I definitely recommend getting the 4K. This is some of the most fun I had this year watching a movie, especially like a kid's movie like this. You think, whatever, but it's hilarious. There's a lot of like adult jokes that would go over kids' heads, and the 4K is incredible. So definitely worth a pickup if you can swing getting the 4K copy. A couple more here that are part of a set, kind of. It's the Resident Evil Afterlife and Resident Evil Vendetta, which is an animated movie. All the same kind of series and same franchise, the Resident Evil franchise. Afterlife, I'd say skip it. You don't really need it. Just grab the Blu-ray if you really like those movies. The cool thing about Vendetta is that this is actually a Dolby Vision disc. So it was one of the first ones that comes with Dolby Vision, which is an upgraded version basically of HDR. It's going to be the next iteration of HDR technology. So my TV right now can't actually handle that, but if your TV can, this is a great disc to pick up just to check out what that technology is capable of. It's going to be really impressive in the future. It's going to be where movie theaters go, where every home theater goes. Dolby Vision really is the future. I think it's probably 2 or 3 years away from going mainstream, but definitely cool to check out if you can grab this disc and you have the capabilities already. So I showed this one off in my last video in the collection update, Alien Covenant 4K. Just picked this up, haven't had a chance to watch it, but movies like this, if you're going to get a sci-fi movie these days and you got the 4K TV, it's worth springing for the 4K. More often than not, you know, you're going to have a better time with this than the standard Blu-ray. A lot of people hated on this movie, but I actually thought that if it was a 21 Jump Street kind of like offshoot and it was part of that world, that universe, it would be pretty funny. I could definitely see like Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill doing a 21 Jump Street Baywatch movie. It had that same kind of vibe. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. It's a stupid summer movie, but you got to just sit back and enjoy it. The 4K is pretty good. Honestly, you can probably just get the Blu-ray. It's a comedy. There's not a ton of action. There's some nice parts here and there, but I say it's worth a shot. I say check this one out. I know a lot of people hated on it, but I had fun with it. So if you like goofy comedies, action comedies, stuff with The Rock in it, I mean, The Rock is the best. So, you know, give it a chance. Check this one out. If you can find the 4K for cheap, go for it. Here's another set from Lionsgate that just recently came out. It's the Red movies, Red 1 and Red 2. Not really worth the upgrade. These movies, I never really understood them. It's like they got a bunch of old people together. I thought the first one was okay, but the second one kind of dragged and kind of lost me. I'd stick with your Blu-ray copies if you have them. No real need to spend another $20 on these guys. So this is a new one. This just came out today. This is Kick-Ass in 4K. Haven't checked it out, obviously. It just came in the mail this morning. But I'm excited because it has some great color, great visuals in this movie. A lot of I just love the movie as a whole. I think the upgrade to 4K will be nice, but It is another Lionsgate title, and they've been kind of lazy with their 4K conversions. They kind of just been throwing out anything that's popular. Like I showed you Cabin in the Woods, Dread, the Red movies, Expendables, just whatever's popular. They kind of just slap a 4K label on it and say, hey, buy it again. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'll let you guys know on Instagram when I watch this and how it is. And last but not least here, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm so happy that Disney finally put out a 4K disc and that Marvel's getting into 4K. Opens up a whole new world. If Disney's doing 4K, then we can get Star Wars in 4K. We can get all the old Marvel movies in 4K. All the new Marvel movies in 4K will look great. So this was really exciting when I heard that they were actually going to do a 4K release for this. And this disc is incredible. I watched it the day it came out. I watched it in theaters. Honestly, I had a better time watching it at home than I did in theaters. I thought the colors were better. I thought the whole visual experience was better on my screen than in a movie theater. So it speaks volumes to how good this 4K disc is. I don't think there's any other way you should watch this unless you want 3D. 4K is the way to go. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video. It's a long one. I got a lot of 4K discs, but I think it's important. A lot of people ask questions about 4K and how the technology is. Is it worth upgrading? What do I think about it? Because I have a pretty decent 4K collection, and so it's important to get some reviews out there and let you guys know what I think of all these titles and just share my collection with you. It's a piece of the collection that is brand new to me. I'm really proud of how many I've already collected over the last few months. And it's really exciting to get to watch these movies in a whole new format. So just a couple things before I go. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 300. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. We're making a push here. If you go to the description, I'm going to leave some links to my social media. I've got a Twitter account. I've got an Instagram account with a ton of followers. I post great content there. I'm always on Twitter if you want to @ me, send me a message. Same with Instagram. So I'll leave those down in the description. And then I'm going to leave a link to a couple of my favorite 4K movies that I listed in this video. And I'll send you a link to Amazon so you can grab them, check out the best prices, maybe put a price tracker on them. But I'll leave a couple links down in the description so you can check those out too. So that's about it, guys. Till next time. This is Jeff here from Films at Home, signing off.